Welcome to the first episode of the Shockum Pull List. I'm your host, Gabe Fast, and I'm the creative director for Shockum Comics. Comic books are so fun to talk about, and we definitely want to, give our thoughts on the books that we are picking up month to month. As well as books that you might find at your local comic book shop, we'll also be highlighting indie creators that are self-publishing. Without further ado, let's get into our first episode. So I have a nice little stack to talk about today, and really this is some stuff that I've picked up over the past week or two. The highlights, I've picked up a lot more than that, but I don't necessarily have time or desire to talk about all of them. So first things first, we got to give a shout out to some indie creators that I respect a lot. It's the Cooper sisters over at Champion Comics. They were here at a local con in Joplin, but I saw them there and I saw that they had the first issue of their new series, Keep Up. Essentially, this is a comic series about a team of racers who are competing in a high-stakes competition where it really is do or die every single time. It's a super creative concept, and I really enjoyed what I read. I think the art is incredible. And if you're wanting to support some indie creators, make sure you definitely go give them some love over at Champion Comics. Keep Up, Issue 1. Next on the list, we have a series that is very, very near and dear to my heart, and that is Absolute Batman. Here's the cover for issue 13. It's got Absolute Catwoman on it. Absolute Batman is easily the hottest comic on the shelves right now. Everybody's talking about it. I've been following along since issue 1, and here we are in issue 13. I can't believe we're here already. For those of you who don't know, Absolute Batman, along with all the other Absolute series that reside in the Absolute universe, they all reside in a dimension that Darkseid has created himself, and he's in control of it. So the Omega Effect is definitely doing some really weird stuff in all of the different series that are tied to this continuity. And while you can enjoy, any of them on their own, they all enhance each other if you kind of read them all in tandem. Just throwing that out there. But in Absolute Batman, he isn't the billionaire playboy by day and caped crusader by night. He's actually a blue-collar worker. Instead of being, this rich kid, that lost his parents, he was actually raised alongside other criminals in Crime Alley. His mom is still alive, she raised him as a single mom. And they just take this story that we all know so well and they do something completely different with it. Absolute Batman is easily one of the freshest stories that we've gotten in a long time, especially from DC. And we can really see, that this continuity is building towards something that feels really interesting. We're in a very, very stressful arc right now with the Abomination storyline, and we just had the penultimate issue with issue 13. The next issue is going to wrap up that arc. And when I say it's been stressful, I mean it. During this arc, we learned that Batman is a tank weighing in at 6'9", 421 pounds, which makes this universe's Batman pretty terrifying. What makes it even more terrifying is realizing that Bane is like this. That's Batman that he's holding in his hand right now. Batman's 6'9", 421 pounds. Like I said, this arc is called Abomination, and it's all about Bane. It's all about his backstory in the Absolute universe. By exploring his backstory, we definitely get, kind of peeks into how this high crime syndicate works and how they're a bunch of monsters. And honestly, this Abomination arc, it's one of the coolest Batman stories I've read in a long time. Essentially, Bruce was going to investigate this place called Arc M. And this Arc M, it's been kind of this looming mystery throughout the entirety of Absolute Batman so far. And he's trapped there, he's trying to escape, and Bane is essentially the warden of this place. But Bruce gets trapped there. He's not really able to escape, for a good majority of the time. He does escape in issue 12, but the build-up getting to that point, it's crazy. You're seeing that they've been experimenting on him, injecting him with venom, and you're seeing that it's starting to affect him psychologically, which Scott Snyder is a master of trying to convey that idea. It really does feel similar to what he did in the Court of Owls. And who knows, maybe even that Court of Owls, Labyrinth storyline still made its way into this universe, and it just happened to this universe's Batman in a different way. Purely conjecture, I'm just saying. They're super similar. So he does escape, and, he's been injected with this venom. It's having its side effects. You can tell he's been psychologically damaged. We have a lot of questions leading into this last issue of this arc. What happens now, truly? Now that he's gotten out, we learned a little bit about Catwoman in this issue. There's a ton of questions. It's been truly fun to follow along with. With issue 13 just releasing and giving us, the full reveal of Absolute Catwoman, there's still a ton of questions that I have. What kind of bad stuff has Catwoman been doing with that black mask helmet? What toll has Venom taken on old Brucey? Is he essentially going to become Bane-esque, with this venom flowing through his veins? What's that going to do to his psychology? How does Bane fit into the bigger picture? Is he just kind of a pit stop along the way, or is he going to be someone that we're going to have to worry about for a long time? Absolute Batman is my favorite story that I am reading month to month, and I am really, really enjoying it. But you want to know what comes in second place for my favorite thing that I'm reading month to month? Absolute Superman, which we are now in issue 12. Issue 13's coming out in a few weeks, I think. And I gotta say, this is right behind Absolute Batman. If you thought Absolute Batman was deep, that's really just junk food compared to what Absolute Superman has to offer in terms of its themes. And while I don't want to give as much of a dissertation on Absolute Superman, I do want to kind of, run through the basics you might want to know about Absolute Superman. So Superman is a bit of an anarchist against these overbearing authorities in this universe. There's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of greed. With Absolute Evil coming out, they're really trying to send us, the message that evil is kind of prevailing in this universe. There's a lot of people in our universe that think evil is prevailing. This Absolute universe really does feel like it's a product of its time, and I love that about it. But Superman, he's really more of a vigilante in this series, and even though he is still positive and optimistic, it's way different than the Superman that most people know and love. It's completely different. I would say that this Superman is more like Batman than Superman. There's these bad guys called the Lazarus Corporation, and essentially they're run by Ra's al Ghul. They're a big part of the stuff that's happening in the entire Absolute universe. They are instrumental to it. I really did find it kind of interesting that they chose to put Ra's as a bad guy in Superman instead of in Batman, but the more I think about it, the more I think what they're doing is giving us plenty of breadcrumbs that will make an inevitable crossover event with all the Absolute stuff. Like, it's going to happen. By putting all these things, from all these different stories, kind of putting them out of place, they really do set up that opportunity for it to hit big whenever they do a crossover. In issue 12, though, Superman kind of finds himself in a similar place as Batman. He's been experimented on by Brainiac as a result of the Lazarus Corporation. You start to realize that the Lazarus Corporation, as well as these Omega Men, have kind of been hosting this faux, back and forth feud essentially to capture Superman, and once they do, they definitely torture him, experiment on him, and they're trying to bend him to Ra's al Ghul's will so that he can be controlled like a weapon. Superman's been experimented on by Brainiac. He's definitely dealing with some PTSD because of that. We kind of go through some motions of him talking to Lois and Jimmy, and you're kind of seeing their dynamic. They're kind of growing together, whereas throughout most of the series, they're all three on different sides. So Jimmy's with the Omega Men, Lois is with the Lazarus Corporation, of course Superman is on his own. So by now in issue 12, they're kind of all coming together as a team, and you're kind of starting to see their strengths and weaknesses. That being said, I really do double down on what I say about Superman's psyche. They make some pretty big statements on some of these pages, and and one in particular that stands out is the idea of solitude. Once you go through something really difficult where you have some trauma involved, sometimes you need some solitude. You don't want to isolate yourself too long, but a little bit of solitude can go a long way, and we see the Fortress of Solitude for the first time in Absolute Superman issue 12. One thing that I loved is they kind of focused on Soul a bit more. Superman doesn't have a traditional cape, and honestly, there's been times where this series has kind of reminded me of Invincible a little bit, except Superman doesn't have another human in his ear telling him what to do. He has an AI, and this AI also serves as his cape. It's this nanite swarm that is coded to his DNA. His parents are the ones who coded this to his DNA. Of course, they're not in the picture, but Superman is really relying on this AI to help him navigate, this world that he finds himself in. And in fact, the series focuses on a lot of themes that center around technology and AI and how it's kind of an inevitable part of our day-to-day. I just felt like a lot of the themes were poignant for the times we live in nowadays. Again, this absolute universe, I think it's really trying to speak to its time that it finds itself in, and I love that about all of these series. But it doesn't just have those types of themes. It's got plenty of deep story around the human condition and how we tend to treat one another and how we tend to view authority, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I think, it's a really good action story, and even though it's a little grittier than what you might find in a typical Superman story, I still feel confident that I could recommend this one to anybody. Not too violent, pretty clean, but still intense sometimes. So that is Absolute Superman, all caught up. Cannot wait for issue 13. Next on the list, we have Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez Batman. So obviously we have 2 issues out. Issue 1 focused more on Batman. Issue 2 focused more on Robin. Honestly, this series came out swinging. I love everything about it. It really, really has surprised me. It is everything that Absolute Batman is not. Absolute Batman focuses on these really dark and brooding themes, whereas this one feels much more lighthearted and approachable. Really a story I think anybody could enjoy. It feels just so much more lighter and digestible. I mean, in issue 1, he literally takes his mask off to negotiate with Killer Croc so that Killer Croc feels more comfortable with talking to him. People forget sometimes that Batman is supposed to have a really big heart, and I love that they just said, hey, this is the type of guy that this universe's Batman is. I really feel like they're trying to make this a Batman story that's approachable for anybody, and it has a ton of heart. We just got Robin introduced in issue 2, kind of diving into more of that family dynamic and how Bruce operates as a father figure, not just, as Batman, but also as Bruce Wayne. I really liked what they did with issue 2 and how they're kind of handling the inevitable butting heads of Batman and Robin. I'm getting some vibes of that for sure. My favorite thing about this series has to be the art. I mean, Jorge Jimenez, he just continues to blow me away. I really think that if they keep this up, they're going to have a legendary run of Batman on their hands. Next up, we have one that I'm kind of disappointed isn't going to be an ongoing series, or to my knowledge isn't an ongoing series, which is Wolverine #1 from Chris Claremont. For those of you who don't know, Chris Claremont is regarded as being the man when it comes to Wolverine. He's responsible for a great deal of the works that helped build the character of Wolverine, the Wolverine that people have, come to know and love. He's done a lot of the building there. I thought this was going to be an ongoing series, but it turns out it's just a one-shot, and that's okay. It was a total page turner. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time I was reading it. It really focused on kind of a back and forth between Logan and Sabretooth, and it was gritty. It really was like a pulse pounder the whole way through, and just as it was ramping up, it was over. So I hope we get more of this, from Chris Claremont, but I'm glad that we got what we got here. Staying in the same vein of X-Men, we have X-Men of Apocalypse. Honestly, I'm really liking this. It feels like a super fresh take on the X-Men, especially the X-Men, from the Apocalypse age and that kind of Apocalypse storyline. I'm all about taking something familiar, that people know and kind of turning it on its head. And after reading issue 1, I have to say I read this and I was like, oh man, this kind of felt like, something I might see in the Absolute Universe right now from DC. It's hyper stylized, it feels fresh, it feels new, and I'm excited to keep up with it. I think the next issue comes out in a week or 2 as of me recording this. Next, we have DCKO. So this is one of the most popular new comics out there right now. So it's a story that's essentially using everybody that has, a story right now at DC. It's mashing them all together in kind of this tournament style event that all leads to this boss battle of fighting Darkseid. So that means everyone's involved, and that even includes the Absolute Universe fighters. So you have everyone included from the All-In Initiative, including the Absolute Universe, fighting in a tournament. The winner's gonna fight Darkseid. That's the premise of the story. I gotta say, it's just pure fun. You can tell that the team is having a fun time with it. I'm having fun with it. It's not super deep. It's the age-old conversation of who would win, and it's happening right now, with stuff that's coming out. I'm definitely going to pick up and read every issue, but I can't say that I'm just chomping at the bit for the next one. It's full of fun, it's full of action, and it has a spot in in the Shockum pull box until further notice. So DC and Marvel are doing some crossover events right now, and the first one happening was Deadpool and Batman issue number 1. I gotta say, I was trying to not be excited for this, but I was. I let myself get excited, and then I read it, and it was about what you would expect it to be. It's gimmicky, it's fun, but it's also just doesn't feel quite right in a lot of ways. I gotta say, the illustrations were stellar. It took me back, to the New 52 era of Batman, where Joker was creeping everybody out to the next level, and it was fun to see that style and kind of reminisce again. Finally, last but not least, we have Trinity, daughter of Wonder Woman. We at Shockum Comics, we have a story called Emma, Rise of a Mythic, and it focuses on themes of discovery, perseverance, resilience, and patience. And when I started reading Trinity, I found that there were a lot of themes that were similar to what we were doing with Emma, and it immediately made me want to pay closer attention, because of those similarities. So Trinity finds herself on this multiversal journey of chasing down anomaly corgis across the multiverse. That's literally what's happening. It's really about more than that, though. Through these various issues, we're seeing Trinity's mindset throughout multiple phases of her life. All these different versions converge, from these different periods of Trinity's life, teenager, little girl, grown woman, and helping each other through, various phases of life. I have really been enjoying what I've been reading, and I really look forward to how Trinity continues to expand those themes, because I really think there is something deep there about if you could go back now and talk to your younger self, what would you say, and how would you help them in that moment? That's really what the story of Trinity is about, and in a lot of ways, that's what Emma, Rise of a Mythic is about as well. So stay tuned there. So just like that, our pull box is empty, and we're out of things to say. Thank you so much for tuning in to this first episode. We covered some good stuff. I definitely want to engage with the audience though, so please make sure you comment down below and let us know what you've been reading. Let us know in the comments down below, and we will definitely chat about it. As always, if you'd like to get in touch with us, please check out our Discord where you can message us there. We have all kinds of stuff about all the comics we're working on. And don't forget to check out our comics on Global Comics where you can read all of our series for free. If you'd like to support us further though, you can check out our store where we sell physical issues of our comics as well as merch. That's all the time we have for the Shockum Pull Box, and we will see you on the next episode.